Hello everybody, I wanted to make a quick second video because I realized I forgot to mention what I was going to tell you guys before I left, which was what we talked about at our meeting at Blizzard. And I'm not under an NDA to discuss the actual things we talked about. I did talk about and learn other things that I can't say, but it's not related to why I was there. But some cool shit's coming. But yeah, so anyway, the meetup was mostly... and it was only the three of us, me and Stickney from Blizzard Watch and Jesse from the Last Codex. And it was, originally we were going to meet actually not only with Jay, who was the community manager who speaks like to the fan community people like myself. It was also supposed to be some of the actual C-Dev, creative dev people, and the story and development people, but they're very busy working on whatever's coming next. In my opinion, Ajara and Nazoth, and no, they didn't say anything to me. That's just what all three of us have assumed now at this point, just because, you know, we pay attention to the story and how Blizzard's leaving little breadcrumbs of what we're going to next. So I just want to make that clear. We're just assuming that. No one said anything to us. So they're very busy working on probably 7.4 and the Ajara expansion. So we couldn't actually talk to them, but we just talked with Jay, who took all of our opinions down, and it was mostly how Blizzard themselves could work with us in the fan community to get all of our things that we do, you know, for Jesse and me, our videos, and for Anne, her columns that she writes for Blizzard Watch, how they can get them more traction, how they can get more eyes watching them, how they can get more publicity. Everything from the official Warcraft Twitter account, tweeting and retweeting things we've done. I also met the girl, or the woman who does the Warcraft Twitter for the North America people. Her name is Chris, and she's very lovely. She's actually really funny and very nice. So whenever anything from North America is tweeted by that, she's the one who does it. So which he wanted us to work with them so he could talk to her, so our stuff could get out there more easily. The big Golden Goose Prize is obviously appearing on the Blizzard, Battle.net launcher, which Jesse's content has before. I believe one of his videos of Lost Codex was on there. And I called Jesse and Lost Codex different, sorry, because there's two people who work on the Lost Codex. Jesse's just the one who voices it and directs it, and I think he also writes it. But all of like the animations and the machinima, and from what I understand, like the artwork and stuff is done by his other partner. So that's why I'm referring to them as two different things, because they are. But yeah, more stuff like how they can help the fan influencers get more attention to their things. So that was really pretty much it. Some of the things that we suggested as the fan community influencers were things like getting interviews more readily available. Because I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but me and a lot of other people who want to do them have noticed a lot fewer interviews are being done lately, especially compared to like Mists of Pandaria, Cataclysm, Wrath era, where there was a lot all the time. So yeah, more interviews. A big thing that Blizzard really doesn't even have to do much for to help us is to give us review copies of things before they come out, so that we can like release our videos or articles of our reviews of those on the day they're launched to the public. For example, I did get a review copy of Chronicle, but it wasn't until like almost a week after Chronicle came out. At which point, reviews of that really don't mean anything because everyone has theirs already. So, I mean, if you remember, it came out like on a Tuesday, and my video didn't come out on it until like 2 weeks after that because I had to read through all of it. I had to like write a script, give my thoughts on it, ask for questions, get feedback. So it's really much more beneficial to us if we get it beforehand, finish it. Like, say if I got Chronicle early, I would have read the whole thing in a much quicker pace, because even getting it after the fact, I really didn't feel like I was in a rush to read it, because I knew that I wasn't going to get as much traction for that video. So I would read it more expediently, and then I can go on here and ask questions about what people think. Of course, you wouldn't be able to release articles or videos on it until it came out, you know, there'd be an embargo, naturally. But, you know, that's one of the things that can really help. Another one is to, there are some more loftier ones, like, for example, I believe I can talk about this. This was on the list with all the other stuff, but Blizzard has heard the feedback of a lot of the lore community about how the lore Q&As have mostly died away at a BlizzCon. So we all suggested that even if they can't bring back like the big panel, giant panel style Q&A that was a couple of years ago, I think it was like 2014 or 2013 when they had the last big panel that was like compared to like the Warcraft panel or the Diablo panel. You know, like the big hour-long panel that was just about the story. It only happened once. But we're not even talking about just that. At BlizzCon, there was kind of like a smaller stage on the second floor. I believe it was in the Dark Moon Fair, like part of the BlizzCon. I haven't been there, but this is what I heard when I was there, listening to them talk about it. That sometimes story developers would just show up there and answer a couple of questions and then leave, and other people would come in, blah, blah, blah. So one of the things we want to do is see if Blizzard can maybe do that, like facilitate that in a more official capacity, maybe have like that smaller panel there at BlizzCon for like an hour, even if they don't like broadcast it to the DirecTV virtual ticket. At least we'll have like a panel that those of us who don't go could see it. And I'm really trying to go this year. I'm going to see if I can wrangle this trip into getting a pass there. I'm trying. But anyway, that's another one of those things. And in response to that hypothetically happening, another suggestion that actually Jay, one of the Blizzard people, said to us that we all really liked was maybe after that happens, there's kind of like a official Blizzard sanctioned podcast where it had like a bunch of fan lore community people on it discussing whatever. Like if it's this BlizzCon, we could discuss the Ajara announcement. Once again, my theory, they didn't say anything. The Ajara announcement, or we could discuss the Q&A, or we could just discuss anything, because, you know, lore podcasts tend to just go flying right off the rails immediately. But that was something that I thought would be really cool, and I'd love to be a part of. What else did we discuss there? He asked us all what our next idea for our next video or article was going to be. I told him, if you guys couldn't tell, I was taking a little bit of a break because I've been playing World of Warcraft for like a long time, and I felt myself getting overly negative. Like, I'm okay being critical of something, obviously, but I felt myself getting like overly negative, not necessarily for incorrect reasons, but just kind of making my response to those things that I felt needed to be improved a worse reaction than I should have. Not that those things that have problems aren't bad. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to say the legitimate grievances aren't legitimate. It's just I was feeling myself reacting to them worse and worse and worse, because it was kind of like bad things piling on bad things, piling on bad things, piling on bad things, piling on blah, 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 all the way up to the top, where then something minor would happen, like the Chromie stuff, which I have done the whole thing on the PTR, and I meant to do a video on it, but this kind of took up my time. And the thing itself is fun, but the fact that it was gated a little bit and had like a reputation tied to it, I think is a problem. But my knee-jerk response to it, like personally and privately, that I've talked to like Howie about and stuff, was to like think it was like the worst thing ever. And that was kind of when I realized, just take a little bit of a break. So anyway, my next thing I want to do is I want to make a video about 7.3 and Argus. And after we find out what happens to kill Jaden, I have to word my things very carefully, because I actually got to sit down and talk with Taryn Gregory. The last night that I was there, he came to our hotel's bar and we were just chilling, the three of us and him and Chris, who I mentioned earlier, who runs like the social media stuff for Warcraft, as well as the blue poster, the blue community member on the forums, Ornix. His name is Brett. He's really cool too. We were all hanging out at the bar and just talking for like hours and hours and hours. So I have to be careful what I say. After the Kill Jaden fight cinematic, after everyone sees what happens there, I want to then make a video on Argus, talking about what possibly is left there for us to fight. You know, who in the Legion is left as a threat. And go over all of them. Obviously, Sargeras. It depends on if we're actually going to fight Sargeras in 7.4. Once again, I'm not giving any clues to anything that I might have been told at Blizzard, so I just want to be clear. I'm not like subtly telling you guys things. But one of them is if it's Sargeras, and then whatever demons might be left, and who the threat might be in 7.3 and 7.4. So I want to make a video on that. And what he discussed was, once we all did that, send like our scripts to them to see if, you know, there's any kind of like inaccuracies or like wild speculation that they could have us cut out, and then, you know, have our videos tweeted and retweeted by the official account. Show them up on the launcher. Stuff like that's really cool. So that's what the next project is for me. I think that was most of what we talked about there. I was advocating for a lot of smaller content creators like myself, because my channel is not very big. You know, people like myself and like Tyrannor, and even the Lost Codex only has like, what, 10,000 subscribers or something. So Jesse and I were like fighting for like the little guy. So that's what we were doing the whole time. And yeah, I think that's basically all we did. I really hope to take some of that feedback to heart, because it would be great to interview. There was something else too, but it'd be great to interview people who do the Warcraft story now, because this is the point I just remembered. One of the points all three of us brought up was, there's no Metzen anymore. There's no Dave Kosak anymore, because he went to Hearthstone. There's no more Mickey Nielsen anymore. There's no James Waugh anymore. All we have is Alex Afrasiabi, who's just kind of like the overarching guy. We don't really know who, like, the guy below him who's orchestrating, like, all of the main points is. Because Alex, like Metzen, toward the end, was just like this, like, the figurehead, the overlord, who was like, yes, these major plot points are what I want. But under that person is the one who's actually, like, doing them all. So our point was, we don't know who that is. Could you, like, tell our fan community, just so we kind of can, like, see what they've done before, and maybe we can see how their storytelling style is? Because while that may not seem useful to some people, for those of us who follow, like, the story, we can then kind of judge on how the game story is going to turn out. And it's not just for, like, predictions and stuff. That is part of it. But just kind of to get the feel of, that kind of storyteller. So then we can kind of move ourselves a little bit back into the groove of this new person who's controlling all these things. Because obviously Metzen had a completely different way of creating his overall story than Kosak, who had a completely overall different way of making the story than, like, Afrasiabi. So yeah, that was kind of one of the things we wanted to, like, get out there, because I would love to have an interview with whoever that is, but we just don't know who it is. And Jay was even like, I'm not 100% sure, because he's pretty new still to Blizzard. He's been in it less a year. So that's basically all of the general stuff that we talked about. We talked about a lot of specific things, not necessarily related to this topic that I can't bring up, but, you know, we talked about other stuff. And then at our hotel, Taryn Gregory was just great. He was such an interesting. It's really interesting to just hear people who are really great speakers just, like, barf out all of their opinions on things to you about the game, of course. And it's just really fascinating to hear the stories of the guy who made all of the cinematics for, like, the last 8 years. Like, it's really. I don't know if I can tell any of them, so I'm not going to, but it's really interesting to hear, like, hypothetical what he originally was planning for some cinematics, what he wanted to do, but some of it got cut or whatever else. But it was just really fascinating, and I just wanted to bring up that it was more for my sake, but it's super cool that I got to just sit with Taryn Gregory and some other people and just listen to him tell us all of the cool things. So that was awesome. So anyway, and this is my video answering some of the things that we talked about at Blizzard. Once again, other stuff I can't talk about. But yeah, so there we go. I hope that answered the questions to some significant satisfaction. And until then, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. Farewell.